from the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
This is your news update at 10 o'clock on 1680 The Crow. I'm Zach Clark. Kelowna RCMP are investigating an assault on a BC Transit bus. A news release on Wednesday afternoon detailed how a Sikh teen attempted to board a Kelowna bus and was confronted with racial slurs by two young adult males. They then recorded the Sikh teen while they kicked and punched him while threatening to do worse. The bus driver then kicked all three of them off the bus, where, stranded on the side of the road, the Sikh teen was allegedly pepper sprayed before the suspects ran away. The World Sikh Organization is upset the bus driver took no action to prevent this assault and are demanding a response. Still more stories to cover, but first, here's producer Max Mashman to tell you about the stories our reporters are chasing today.
Hello, Zach. Today we have reporters covering a press conference from Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre, which is just wrapping up in Vancouver, so I'm excited to hear about any developments on that front. Now taking it to a provincial level, where the province has announced it will expand its provincial tuition waiver program to all residents formerly under government care and is no longer capping the program when residents reach 27. We have a reporter getting reaction on that. We are also covering the bankruptcy of BioSteel energy drink, and this is actually a really interesting one. The company is a holding of a major cannabis producer, Canopy Growth, and is a big sponsor of the NHL. The BioSteel bankruptcy comes as a bit of a shock, given their prevalence within the NHL and the sponsorship sphere, and it remains unclear how this announcement will affect Canopy's stock price. In other BC news, which I found interesting, we have the breaking of ground at a new Surrey hospital, the park board vote to rebuild a Vancouver pier instead of demolishing it, and the announcement from Vancouver City Council about a raise in licensing fees for businesses and Airbnbs in a hope to address a $500 million deficit without raising property taxes, as well as the construction of new affordable housing for seniors and families is announced in Burnaby yesterday. Thanks, Zach. Back to you.
Thanks for the update, Max. Montreal billionaire Robert Miller, who's facing a class action lawsuit alleging he paid underage girls for sex, is selling Future Electronics Incorporated for more than $5 billion to a Taiwanese company. Future Electronics, which is owned solely by Miller, distributes electronic components worldwide. The class action lawsuit against Miller and Future Electronics saw 30 women come forward to allege that he gave them money and gifts in exchange for sex while they were underage. Miller has denied the allegations but did step down as chairman and CEO when they came to light. Ontario Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, is recommending citizens get flu and COVID shots ahead of the colder seasons. The province of Ontario is planning to allow pharmacists to prescribe flu medication and administer shots to infants under 2, removing the current age requirements.
We really are strongly encouraging those that are over 65 years of age to come forward and plan to get vaccinated. Also get vaccinated for COVID, but consider getting vaccinated for influenza at the same time.
Ontario will receive doses of Moderna's new COVID vaccine later this month. Heading down to the U.S., a judge in Georgia has ruled that former President Donald Trump and 16 others will be tried separately from 2 defendants going to trial next month in the ongoing case investigating an illegal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Trump and other defendants had asked to be tried separately from lawyers Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesbrough, saying they couldn't be ready for a trial by the late October date. Abortion clinics in South Carolina want to lengthen the narrow time frame where they can legally terminate a pregnancy under a strict new ban. The all-male South Carolina Supreme Court upheld a fetal heartbeat law, which is commonly interpreted to restrict abortions to the first 6 weeks of pregnancy. However, abortion providers are arguing that medically, most main pieces of the heart develop around 9 weeks, and therefore that's when the ban should apply to. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has returned Mexico's aviation safety rating to the highest level after downgrading it 2 years ago. The change will allow Mexican airlines to add new routes and allow other countries to sell tickets on Mexican flights. That was your 10 o'clock update. I'm Zach Clark, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
this episode of For the Record, we will talk about suicide. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please call 1-800-784-2433. September is Suicide Prevention Month. The conversation around this topic is not an easy one, and more if someone you know is at risk of attempting suicide. This episode's guest, Lou Ripley is the Director of Community Learning and Engagement at BC Crisis Center. Ripley has more than 30 years of experience on community development and health promotion. Part of her job is training people on how to recognize suicide warning signs. Let's hear on what she has to say on suicide prevention. With children going back to school and adults going back to the grind, how can people recognize in this environment suicide signs in their peers?
Sure. Well, thank you for asking. That's a really great question. How can people recognize? Well, there's a few things that I'd like to point out. One is that we can recognize by starting to kind of destigmatize or humanize suicide, to recognize that many people can struggle with suicide. It's sort of not one type of person. It's not shameful. And I think that often is one of the big barriers in our society, is that we think, oh, it's sort of this type of person, or people who this happens to, or, you know, it wouldn't really be something that would happen to this other kind of person who maybe you have, you know, there's certain judgments about that other person that wouldn't make them likely to think about suicide. So the reality is that we all know that anybody can have thoughts of suicide. That's the first step. And then the second step is to be aware of you know, maybe changes that you notice. You know, maybe the person, you know, for a long time seemed very bubbly, and then you notice a significant change in that behavior. Maybe they stopped doing things that they used to do. Maybe they say things to you like, I can't go on anymore, or I don't want to live. That could be an indication, right? We know that when people go through challenging times, they might say some of these things. And so we can be aware of them. So significant changes, things that someone says, and being able to notice these and even check in with somebody and say what you notice. You know, I noticed that, you know, it's been hard for you the past year. I haven't seen you come to the activities that you normally did. It seems like you're struggling, right? How are you doing? Like checking in with people and just seeing how they are.
Yeah, on the same line, when you started answering this question, you said about the stigmatized, and I wanted to ask you, how do you do that? How do you start opening the conversation, for example, in families, when parents sometimes have a hard time speaking about certain topics like sexuality or the topics? How do we open that conversation in houses, for example?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and something we do training. We offer training for various community members because it's hard. You know, totally, I get it. I'm a parent. I get it. I think it's, for me, it's just sort of being aware that someone having thoughts of suicide doesn't mean that it's not something that we need to be completely afraid of. It might mean that someone's struggling and needs some help within a time of challenge. So trying to destigmatize in that way, to know that it's kind of this balance. We don't want to say, oh, you know, everybody struggles with it. It's no big deal. Just deal with it. And we also don't want to do this other opposite thing and say, oh my goodness, if someone's struggling with suicide, they need to, like, you know, be locked away, right? It's kind of like a balance, right? So noticing, being able to be aware that this is not just something that's happening to your family, for example. It's very much more common than that, and I think that can be really helpful for parents to keep in mind.
And once parents or peers recognize these signs, what are the next steps? What do you do? Like, what do you do after that?
Well, if you recognize that something's going on with someone and they're saying things to you, or you're noticing these changes, or you know, just kind of like, I don't want to live anymore, I can hardly go on anymore, I feel really stuck, there's no worth living. You know, the thing is to kind of even just let the person know, you know, I hear you saying, you know, you don't want to live, and you're not playing soccer anymore, and I'm concerned. Like, again, that I'm concerned. Like, what's going on? Like, do you want to talk about it? And just sort of see what the person says, and to be able, and this is what we do in a lot of our training, to be able to even ask, you know, like, sometimes when someone says they don't want to live anymore, they're actually thinking maybe about not living anymore. Sometimes it's even linked to suicide. Is that something that you're thinking, right? So this ability to kind of notice it, to let someone know why you're asking, to name it, right? Very hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. It can be hard. And it can be super helpful, right? That person feels seen and heard and validated, right? So we do recommend really just sort of exploring some of the things you're noticing and hearing, being able to, if you can, ask about suicide or, I'll just share with you a story about someone who called me and she was really worried about her son and she couldn't bring herself to ask him. She was too fearful because she had suicide in her life. And so she reached out to her sister and said to her sister, can you check in with him? And can you make sure you ask him, right? So sometimes it means kind of reaching out to maybe others we have in our life to also check in with and not trying to handle everything by ourselves.
Yeah, for sure it's a tough conversation to have with kids or everyone. But I was thinking nowadays we also have like this, we're talking more about mental health in more spaces. And I wanted to ask you about your perception. What are the things that we didn't know 10 years ago that we know now about the suicide prevention? Or what are the big changes that you're seeing in your environment, in your patients when they speak about their problems or the people that you train to recognize suicide signs?
What are we noticing as big changes in the last 10 years?
Yes. What are the biggest changes that you've seen in your workshops?
Right. I think people are acknowledging, I think there's less stigma, and I think that can be a good thing. I think people are aware that all of us have these these types of things in our families and our workplaces, and I do feel like there's less stigma and definitely more openness. I remember when 10 years ago, if I mentioned I worked in the field I worked at, people would just turn away. And now I do recognize that people are more curious, actually, and I know that people want to get more of the skills, and so we do notice that more and more people are coming out to get trained, like parents and workplaces, and just trying to gain more of the skills to be able to manage it. And I also think that people are recognizing, and this is great, that it's about a community response. This is not like an individual problem that one person can fix. Often it does require a community, so families involved and maybe professional services are involved, and we have places like crisis centers that people can phone in, so that it's a real community effort.
Thank you, Lou. We're getting to the end of the interview, and I wanted to ask you, do you have any recommendations for the public, how they can access these resources, or how can they sign in for this workshops that you do?
Yeah, sure. So if you go to our website, Crisis Center of BC, we offer a variety of trainings, and one that I would highly recommend is something called Safe Talk. It's a half-day training. Good for anybody 15 and older. It's a really wonderful training. It's very empowering. I know that's kind of crazy to say when you're talking about suicide, but it is. And that one of the other changes that we're moving into, and I think the Indigenous worldview for this is we're reminding ourselves that life promotion is important, and so that means taking care of ourselves, right? And that means taking care of our communities. So we build that into our suicide prevention training. So yeah, it's on our website. If there's an inability to pay, please do reach out, because we can make it affordable for you, or we just want people to come and get trained.
That was Lou Ripley from the BC Crisis Center. I'm Sebastián Arancibia, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good morning, Burnaby. I'm Richard Davis. Here's what's making news at 10:30. Announced just this morning, the federal government said they're eliminating the GST for the construction of new rental apartments. They hope the new tax break will lower rents and make housing more affordable. The BC General Employees Union is calling on the government to implement vacancy control. The BCGEU wants to limit the amount landlords can raise rents when tenants move out, lowering the rate of rent evictions. That's when a landlord renovates an apartment to kick out the current tenant to legally raise the rental price. Now, an update on a story we told you about earlier this week. New details have emerged over the past days, about the Coquitlam man who walked out of the shower to find a female RCMP officer in his bedroom. Kirk Forbes has filed a lawsuit against the RCMP and claims he is now known within the Coquitlam RCMP detachment as Shower Guy. The RCMP say they entered Forbes' home on legal grounds as the door was open. Forbes says the officers joked they had to come in to investigate if a break-in had occurred. They were visiting the residence to deliver a traffic ticket, something Forbes claims he's not even responsible for. 2 new polls suggest most Albertans would support some kind of national cap on carbon emissions from the oil and gas sector. The polls were conducted by 2 different polling firms in late August with the same questions. Leger found 57% of respondents were at least somewhat in favor of an emissions cap. Research Company's finding was 62% in favor. Neither pollster knew what the other one was doing, and both were commissioned by the Canadians Association of Physicians for the Environment. Over to the United States, where Donald Trump and 16 others in the Georgia election case will be tried separately from 2 other defendants. The Associated Press's Sagar Mahani has the story.
Lawyers Sidney Powell and Kenneth Cheesebro demanded a speedy trial, and a Fulton County judge set an October 23rd start date. Trump and the others wanted to be tried separately from Powell and Cheesebro, with some saying they could not be ready by late October. The county's top prosecutor wanted all 19 tried together after indicting them over efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results, but the judge has ruled Powell and Cheesebro will be tried separately. Sagar Magani, Washington.
For history-making 2 months, a pig's kidney worked normally inside a brain-dead man. And while the dramatic experiment ended this week, it's raising hope for eventually testing pig kidneys in living patients. Surgeons at NYU Langone Health removed the pig kidney and returned the donated body to his family for cremation. The genetically modified kidney worked properly the first month before showing subtle signs that the rejection was forming. But doctors say the kidney's function bounced back with simple medication changes. The lessons could help as regulators decide whether to allow clinical trials of pig organs. Well, the largest newspaper chain in the U.S. is hiring reporters specifically to cover musicians Taylor Swift and Beyoncé. The Associated Press's Margie Sarazoda has the story.
It's me. Gannett, which owns USA Today and more than 200 other newspapers, says Taylor Swift and Beyoncé have a big enough impact on culture that they each deserve reporters covering only them. It could be a dream job for a superfan of either one, but Gannett says the job requires skills in print, audio, and visual journalism. The News Guild reports Gannett shrunk its workforce 47% in the last 3 years from layoffs and attrition, and local reporting in particular is shrinking. Representatives for Swift and Beyoncé did not respond to requests for comment. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Brazil's Supreme Court has handed a 17-year prison sentence to a supporter of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who stormed top government offices on January 8th in an alleged bid to forcibly restore the right-wing leader to office. Pereira, 51, is the first of several participants in the uprising to be prosecuted. In January, cameras at the Senate filmed him wearing a shirt calling for a military coup and recording a video of himself praising others who had also broken into the building. The majority of the 11 justices in the court ruled that Pereira committed 5 crimes, including staging a coup. Pereira has denied any wrongdoing, and he claimed he took part in a peaceful demonstration of unarmed people. I'm Richard Davis from 1680 The Crow. Stay tuned for more on news updates.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Bollywood, is completely larger than life.
It's lots of colors, it's loud, you wear jewelries, and automatically it gives that sense of, oh, I want to be a part of this. My name is Rohan De Silva, and I have been with Shamak for almost 32 years now. This is where I feel like I have found my purpose. If I can make a difference with just one person's life, I feel like, okay, I've done something that I'm supposed to do, meaningful, or any purpose that needs to be done in that particular day.
Pure joy is what I find from Bollywood dancing, and there's a lot of storytelling, so I get to learn a lot about the story and the people behind the dance, which is also really, really fun. It's been a really fun learning adventure for me as well.
A lot of students come and tell me, Rohan, I felt nice. I felt good. Now I feel like I can go back and I can tackle what I need to tackle again. So at some point or some place, even if it is like a 5% strength that they get to go out and deal with something, I think Bollywood does a great experience because it's a great escape. Side, left, side, hard, away, swing, drop. Getting it? One more time.
Shamak is a safe space for me. And I was suffering from postpartum depression, and Shamak really helped. These people were like very motivating, and that's how I think I even came out of depression through dance and through Shamak. And I can explore all my, like the way my body moves. There is no inhibitions.
I look forward to the classes. There is a community that they build together, which is why I have been with them, because they have like sense of belonging. They feel like family to you, which is what I look forward to when I'm coming to my Sunday classes. And we are like a small family. We hang out together. We go for lunches. We go for dinners. And I feel like when you're in a country where you don't have people, that community really helps.
Shamak is community. Since we all met each other through online classes, now I know her family, and it's our tight community. And it just taught us like how to be positive. You know, if you're going through a low phase, like just come dance and you feel great.
The joy of dance is like nothing else. And that's something that I've really, really noticed. I look forward to it every time I come, and I feel better, lighter, more positive after I've danced.
The Victory Arts Foundation is what we believe in, is to giving it back to the community. We encourage a lot of parents even in our classes to tell them that if you have kids who are challenged, bring them to class. Free of cost. We've never asked them to pay anything, and another instructor will be part of that throughout with that person. We just give them empowerment.
Dance is meaningful when it's inclusive and when it is accessible to people. So no matter what backgrounds they come from, everyone should have access to dance and the power and joy that dance brings. My name is Suragini Ravindran, and I've been a volunteer with Shamak's Victory Arts Foundation since 2003. It's a global movement, started very organically with just a few students, and then it became like a huge hit because, we had kids, grandparents, housewives, people, who never thought about doing Western dance in India. It's not just about giving back, it's just about, being meaningful, making meaningful connections, reaching out in the community to people you wouldn't meet otherwise. And I think that really changed my whole outlook and on what we should be doing in the community.
I feel more happy to be with all my friends, yeah.
Sometimes I did mistake the steps all, and my teacher there told me that I did a very good job. So I'm pretty happy for me.
What do you like the most about being on stage, Nick?
I like to smile, I like to laugh, and my friends are very joyful.
Even when you see them walk into dance class, right? When they walk in with their arms open, like, we're here, this is our space, and this is where we're going to shine. And it is a place where everyone feels they belong.
Are you guys excited?
Yeah!
We're gonna get started, guys, so find your space. My name is Andrea Yu, and I am a volunteer instructor with Victory Arts Foundation. Arms. A sense of community, a sense of belonging, and a sense of doing something that, you've heard it from our students, being active, feeling the joy of dance, feeling the joy of music, and getting to share a different culture than maybe people wouldn't think that you'd be familiar with.
She's more confident in going out and doing a lot of other things out in the community as well. So it's been really great for her.
We've always set up programs welcoming people to just come and have a good time and be themselves. When they performed on stage, it was the same difference and the same high moment and high feeling that someone gets when they feel like a superstar.
We're just out there to really appreciate what we can do for ourselves. At the end of the day, it's about loving the experience and loving ourselves through that experience. I always come back because at the end of the day, I'm always accepted. I'm always welcome back, and that's the beauty of this.
Life without Bollywood for me, I think would be just a normal life. If I've experienced Bollywood and I've been a part of Bollywood and I've been a part of movies and I've been a thing, I've seen what it is. For me, I think I would be like completely brain dead. Like I would just be going through life as a routine. Like there would be no, like I wouldn't look up to anything else. It is exciting. It keeps me going. I'm looking forward to life with Bollywood.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
This is your 11 o'clock news update on 1680 The Crow. I'm Zach Clark. Chilliwack RCMP are investigating a double homicide on Chilliwack Lake Road that they suspect stemmed from a dispute between neighbors. A suspect has been taken into custody, but RCMP are asking anyone with more information to step forward. The double homicide comes less than 2 weeks after another shooting in the area, which police say are unlikely to be connected. In an update to BC's decriminalization laws, the BC government has banned illicit drugs within 15 meters of playgrounds, pools, and skate parks. BC's decriminalization of street drugs came into effect January. Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim responded to the update saying, "These are necessary measures, and I appreciate that the concerns of Vancouverites were listened to." Yesterday, the Vancouver City Council held a vote to increase multiple license fees. Riley Leung has the story.
On Wednesday, the City Council has proposed and voted on increasing business licensing fees, residential parking permit fees, and more. The most significant one is the short-term rental license, which will see an increase from $109 to a staggering $1,000. Though not finalized, the increase in licensing fees will be in Vancouver's 2024 budget plan. Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim explained that the increases were necessary to not up property taxes. The additional revenue will generate an extra $15.2 million for the city, making up a 1.4% property tax increase. Riley Leung, 1680 The Crow.
Kelowna RCMP are investigating an assault on a BC Transit bus. A news release on Wednesday afternoon detailed how a Sikh teen attempted to board a Kelowna bus and was confronted with racial slurs by two young adult males. They then recorded the Sikh teen while they kicked and punched him while threatening to do worse. The bus driver then kicked all three of them off the bus, where, stranded on the side of the road, the Sikh teen was allegedly pepper sprayed before the suspects ran away. The World Sikh Organization is upset the bus driver took no action to prevent this assault and are demanding a response. In other Canadian news, Manitoba's New Democrats are promising to reopen a Winnipeg health centre for menopausal women if they win the October election. The Mature Women's Centre provided one-stop services for menopause transition, hysterectomy alternatives, and other gynecological care. The centre was closed in 2017 as part of the Progressive Conservatives' budget cuts to the healthcare system. The NDP plan is supported by Dr. Sabrina Lee, who works with mature women.
It's already difficult sometimes for women to get the attention they need in healthcare. It's even harder once they're past those reproductive years sometimes. And so it's not okay to disregard them that way. We need to do better by mature women and offer them the appropriate services that they need.
The NDP are also planning on expanding pharmaceutical coverage for osteoporosis prevention medication. In the United States, U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is responding to threats from his own party who are looking to remove him from his position.
During a closed-door meeting with his conference, sources say House Speaker Kevin McCarthy dared far-right Republicans to try and oust him as Speaker.
I don't walk away from a battle. I knew changing Washington would not be easy. I knew people would fight or try to hold leverage for other things. I'm going to continue to focus on what's the right thing to do for the American people. And you know what? If it takes a fight, I'll have a fight.
Representative Matt Gaetz has repeatedly threatened that he could bring the motion to the floor any day now. Ika Jachi, ABC News, Washington.
McCarthy is under scrutiny for starting an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Overseas, Libyan officials have said the city of Derna is burying thousands of people in mass graves as search teams continue to search the ruins left by the devastating floods. The city's mayor said the death toll could still triple as more bodies are being discovered by the hour. The confirmed death toll is up to 5,500, but over 9,000 people are still missing. It's 16 degrees and sunny here in Vancouver, with a high of 22 and a low of 14. Tomorrow looks even hotter, getting up to 23 degrees and clear skies, before cooling down again with a little bit of drizzle. That was your 11 o'clock news update. I'm Zach Clark. You're listening to The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikikane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikikane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.